Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness. This is episode 156. You are listening to Let's Be Well Together podcast. It's John Webster. I'm here with Riley Thompson. Hi, Riley.
Hi, John.
We like to exchange some thoughts about what to talk about. And you said you wanted to talk about wearable fitness trackers. So what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I got a new Apple Watch for Christmas, and I have been staring down at my wrist, thinking about the differences, not only in fitness trackers, because I know there's so many on the market. I used to have a Fitbit. I know Garmin's are a big thing. Apple Watches are huge, but I've just kind of been wondering why they are as popular as they are. Like, I know watches are obviously there to tell the time, which is great, but the whole touch screen, ability to scroll, ability to track your heart rate and your steps and calories, like all this stuff is so crazy to me, and yet I am so dependent on it.
I know.
And I don't know where that came from. It's like all of a sudden I just woke up one day and now I can't go a day without having my watch on.
I also have an Apple Watch. I remember reading about what they call naked running, and it's not actually running naked, it's running without any technology. And I always think
funny how that's what it's come to. Naked running without technology as opposed to no clothes.
Right. And I just can't do it yet. Like someday I hope to do it, but I just, I like seeing how fast I'm going, and not because I'm trying to go too fast, but it just is a gauge, like how I like to see comparing how I feel to how I'm actually doing. And there's just so many times where I find it useful. And there have been a couple times lately where the other day, for example, I just forgot the watch in the charging dock. And I went kind of the day without the watch, and it felt so weird, But the worst was, there was a time when I was on a real fitness kick, and it keeps track of things and it kind of rewards you. It's like, woo, you did all your activity for the day. You've done all your exercise for the day and something else. I can't remember what it is. And I kept getting that done every day and had this really long streak going. And then you start getting all these little badges, and I had all these badges, and something went wrong with my phone and I kind of lost everything. And first of all, I thought it was strange that I felt bad. Like, oh no, I don't have my little Boy Scout badges. But secondly, I was like, okay, you know what? I got to take a break from this. So I just stopped worrying about it, because there were days, like Sheila would laugh because it's just before bedtime. She goes, why are you walking up and down the stairs? I'm like, I just have to get this one last thing to get this little badge.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Huh. Funny how that works. Like, I know with my watch, I am still trying to learn my way around it. I'm used to the Fitbit, so I would mainly just wear it during my workouts to track my heart rate. Again, for no particular reason other than to see what my resting heart rate is, as opposed to, how much I'm exerting myself during my workout. But now I just find myself relying on it for everything. And I just wonder, what did people do before watches?
Yeah,
which is crazy, because I was alive during the time before fitness watches and stuff, but I was just a kid. So it's hard to kind of answer that question as to what health kind of looked like before AI and fitness trackers and all this new tech.
One thing, just so you know, when I first got my watch too, I was doing text messaging on my watch. I was reading emails on my watch. That does go away. It's just a lot more convenient to do a lot of those things on the phone or later. But anyway, let's talk about a few of the positives. I really believe that it's motivating to me to have the watch in some ways. And so, for example, I do find it useful to track myself when I'm running. I think that's a really nice thing. I don't actually wear it at night. I don't, some people wear it to bed and it tracks their sleeping. I don't do that. But I do put it on in the morning, and it does give you your resting heart rate.
Yeah, I use it for sleep some nights. I know I've learned that compared to the Fitbit I had, the Apple Watch battery doesn't last super long, so I find myself having to charge it most nights. But some nights I'll forget and I'll have it on overnight, and then I'll look in the morning and it'll give me all my sleep stats, which is actually really cool, because there's not a whole lot, in my undergrad and stuff, we learned a lot about sleep and kind of the lack of research there is around sleep, what makes healthy sleep, what makes unhealthy sleep, not enough, all this stuff. So it's cool to kind of see your sleep schedule broken down into where you fell asleep and where you woke up, REM sleep versus deep sleep, and just kind of being able to track your quality of sleep and maybe how that affects you during the day too. Just waking up and not feeling refreshed. You're wondering why that is. You could check your watch and it'll tell you, oh, because you didn't sleep very thoroughly or you're waking up a lot during the night.
You can learn a lot. I don't think a lot of these stats are perfect to accuracy levels, but I think it does give you a good general sense of things. And if you are monitoring that regularly, you'll see changes over time, and then you can start getting used to which ones are real and which ones aren't. There was a time when my watch kept messing up and my heart rate would spike when it wasn't actually spiking.
Right.
But even then I learned to kind of how to figure out when that was a bit off. But generally speaking, I find it gives good data. And
yeah, I agree.
It does motivate me to actually get out and work out or do something. So I recognize that. What about you? Does it ever kind of motivate you one way or the other to do some exercise?
Yeah, I mean, my watch will bing every once in a while telling me to stand up, which is like simple, but if I'm sitting down for 4 hours at a time doing schoolwork or at my laptop, it's just nice to kind of have that reminder to, oh, maybe I should use the washroom or maybe I can get a drink of water or something. To just, get up, stretch, and then just get back to it. So it does motivate me in the simpler things. I'm not a runner and I have, a pretty good gym routine that's already built into my life. So it doesn't so much remind me of that. That's kind of already up in my brain, but for the small stuff, it works.
Yeah, I even put it on. I do some core exercise. Sometimes I do some weights some days, and you can even push the button for that too. So like there's a little setting, I can't remember what they call it, like functional weight training, or the other one is core. And again, I don't know why, maybe it's just my personality, but the fact that I punched that in and then I did the workout and then it kind of says, good job, makes me feel good. It makes me feel good. So maybe I'm just a little kid or something.
No, I think it means it's working.
But I do think, and a lot of times I wonder too, I don't know if I would have run a marathon if I didn't have some technology.
Really?
Yeah. And I think that because especially actually when it comes to headphones, I run with music and I don't know if I could run for 2 hours, 3 hours training with no music. A lot of people love it. A lot of people say that you should and that they don't like music or they don't like that kind of stuff. But knowing myself, I really need it. So when I think back of how the training went and how I set my schedule and kind of the ways I was trying to achieve goals and measure them and needing music, I don't know if 40 years ago I would have been able to do that. So I feel kind of lucky about some of the technology we have.
That's an interesting take on it.
What do you do when you go to the gym? Do you ever listen to music or do you just do your thing?
Always. I always have my headphones on, or I'm always, sometimes if I'm walking on the treadmill, I'll have something on the screen in front of me. Like I can't just sit there, or I guess I'm not sitting, but I can't just work out without any background noise. My mom is the opposite. She's a walker. She always loves walking. She'll go into town for a walk. She'll walk outside. She'll go on the treadmill. And she doesn't need music. She doesn't need a screen. She doesn't need an audiobook. She doesn't need anything. She'll just go techless for the whole walk. And I admire that because I wish I could do that.
Do you think you'd go to the gym as much if you didn't have any music or any TVs to watch?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not. Because I don't feel, I don't know, like when I go on the treadmill, I'm just like, oh, I'll throw on an episode and I'll watch an episode while I'm on the treadmill. Whereas like if I don't have an episode on, I'll be like, okay, has it been 30 minutes yet? Has it been 30 minutes yet? Which is so ridiculous because I should be enjoying the walking. I should be feeling good and getting my heart rate going. But instead I'm like, well, I'll just use TV as a motivator, which is so backwards.
Yeah. So basically what we're kind of saying is we don't think we should need technology, but both of us seem to need it. And so I don't know, I'm okay with it. The other day I was doing a treadmill run and it was hard. It was getting hard. I was doing an interval training. So you go fast and slow and everything was fine until like the fifth or sixth one. And then I was struggling and a song came on and it just totally put me in an amazing frame of mind. And I got through that last session because of it. So anyway, it's interesting. Like you got that new watch and we're thinking about this stuff. We have technology today and we wonder what would happen 50 years ago. And part of us thinks we should need it. Part of us thinks, hey, it helps. Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds, Today's interview is in many areas of wellness. We're talking about embracing life's hardest moments. From a practical perspective, more and more, I see the benefits of leaning into doing hard things. Maybe we'll talk about that too. So welcome, Cris.
Thank you for having me.
Cris Duval is a registered dental hygienist, patient health advocate, and a wellness coach. She spent more than 4 decades in patient care. As a founder of the Lifeguard approach, Cris focuses on helping dental and medical teams shift their mindset from repairing the damage to preparing patients for health. She describes herself as an architect of change in dentistry's approach to oral systemic health, and her ultimate goal is saving lives by both guarding and guiding health and wellness. And when we were setting up this interview, I found out that there's other things you like to talk about. We already did an interview on the Lifeguard approach, but today we're talking about embracing life's hardest moments. And Cris, tell us a little bit about kind of your background and why that's a topic that resonates with you.
Oh boy, does it ever. Well, by the time I had turned 18, 2 of my brothers and my father had passed away. It had profound impact on me watching my family grieve the loss one at a time, and then 10 years later, another one happened. And then after the next 10 years, another one happened. And so we were immersed in grief, and doing grief for that long of a time is a really hard thing.
Right.
And then to add on top of that, when my mother was 2, she was sent to live with relatives because her parents divorced, and neither one of them wanted her. And so I could hardly talk about it when I would think about her and being sent away as a 2-year-old little child, and what impact that had on her being able to do hard things, and what being able to do hard things or having resilience, how that impacts your longevity and how long you live. It's really important to evaluate those things and learn, if you need to, how to do hard things, or how to learn how to reframe things that have been hard into something more positive. Because I don't care how thin you slice it, there's something positive in every single event that happens. And that's what I look for, is the positive.
And was that a progression where you eventually, through your experiences, saw that that was an approach that worked well for you?
Yes, and it was, as I was younger, and even now it's more pronounced, but I became the risk management officer in the family because I was so focused on preventing another tragedy that I would evaluate risk of anything I was doing or my family was doing, because I didn't want the opportunity of a tragedy or another accident to creep in there and take another life. So that helped me by being proactive in managing risk. I later used these events in my life to frame how I took care of patients, because I know every patient that sits in my chair has a plethora of people that love and care about him, just like I love and care about my family. And so they would want me to take great care of whoever it is I was working with. Going back to those events and what I did, I knew enough about our neuroscience of the brain that I knew I had to develop a positive attitude towards doing something hard, because I had to choose basically between disease and health, because I know the damaging and disease-producing events that happen when I have toxic thoughts or negative thoughts. And I know the benefit of having positive thoughts and what that type of neuro connections are made in my brain when I have positive thoughts. There's a woman called Dr. Caroline Leaf, who has written extensively about doing hard things and how much our attitude depends on our health and wellness. And she says that over 80% of the lifestyle diseases are caused by our thoughts. When you have negative thoughts, there are bad neurotoxins that are released into our body. She says that's what causes disease. And so when you can learn how to shift, and it isn't easy, but that's for sure, but you got to learn how to do it if you want to be healthy, to know the impact of and the neurotransmitters that are produced when you think positive thoughts or transform your thinking is really the key to all this.
I've been exploring something the last, say, 6 months or so, when it finally dawned on me that in a search for wellness and balance, a lot of people think, and probably I did at times, that, oh, wouldn't it be great to get to a spot where I've got it all figured out and I can just be like, I can sit down and relax. But I started realizing that most of the stuff that I find rewarding, whether that's physical and I go do a higher intensity run or something challenging that happens in my life and I got through it, the rewarding stuff was all hard. And so I'm thinking more and more about that and realizing that there's a path towards wellness and balance that's probably got a lot of hard work in it. And that's okay, because if I lean into it, I can get there, and it feels more rewarding than a few days on the beach. I'm not feeling as good as having, done some tough challenge.
The impact on your brain, positively speaking, is dramatic when you accomplish hard things. That's the family motto of my son and his wife and their 2 children is we do hard things. Everyone in the family picks a hard thing that is probably going to take about a year to accomplish, but that's what they work on every year, is accomplishing that hard thing. And they hold each other accountable to making it something that's really going to call upon your ability to have stick-to-itiveness and the desire to accomplish whatever it is you decide is your hard thing.
I like keeping my eyes open for interesting news articles, and I did see one a couple months back, and there was a study, and it concluded that people who are disciplined live longer. And obviously you can't make the direct connections, but what does discipline mean? And they had this series of about a dozen questions. But it was kind of getting at what you're talking about. Like, are you the kind of person that can figure out how to push through when there's a challenge? And do you stick to X? You're talking a little bit about how it changes your mind chemistry, and I don't know the science of it, but I can really imagine how a person who tries to do a hard thing every year and a person who's disciplined, I'm going to imagine that person probably would live longer because it's probably affecting all areas of their life in a positive way.
Well, amidst all that happened with my mom, she lived to be over 100 years old. And when you ask most octogenarians or physicians that take care of older people, what is a determining factor that allows people to live to an old age? And this one, I just love this physician, what he was saying is that, he said, I can answer that in one word. And the word is resilience. Your ability to bounce back after hard things happen. Boy, that's an area I would encourage your listeners to focus on is, what do I have to do to increase my resilience in life? And what are some challenges I can give myself that will increase my ability to do hard things? You see, all of this stuff that we're talking about here today comes down to another word that I think is so important, and that's growth. In hard times, and when you have to get out of your comfort zone and do something that you haven't done before or that is difficult for you, that's where growth happens. And to me, we weren't born with all of our talents and abilities discovered. That's our job, to realize our potential is to grow.
I think a lot of people think that discipline is a characteristic, like you're born with, like being tall or short or whatever. And I don't agree. I think discipline is something you can learn and train yourself for, which is going to help you on all these endeavors. And in terms of resilience, yeah, just so you know, Cris, my approach to wellness is a very practical one. First, you identify these areas of wellness, and I've identified a bunch. And then you figure out what are the actual activities you need to do to build wellness in each area. And that can be hard work. But I believe that by doing that, by building up these different 8 categories of wellness, you're becoming resilient. So for example, if your spiritual and physical and intellectual and mental are strong, and then you have like an economic problem, you're more resilient. If your physical and spiritual is good and you have a mental breakdown of some sort, you're going to be more resilient. As long as I treat them all as like pieces of a shield. And if you keep 6 or 8 of them strong, you've got a stronger shield. So I love the idea that you're talking about in terms of resilience. Now, in practical terms, if you're trying to give yourself a positive outlook or a positive way of thinking, are there any practical things that you do or questions you ask or something of that nature that people could try? Or do you just find that it happens organically with you and you just have a better positive outlook?
No, I ask myself different questions. One big one for me, when something negative happens and I have to make a shift, I try and look at it and ask myself, what is the lesson here that I'm supposed to be learning with this? I also believe that in every bad thing that happens, if you want to use that word, there's always some good. When my husband died in 2016, I asked my family and friends to stop asking me a certain question. And the question was, how are you doing today? And that took me immediately back. And I wanted to continue to move forward because I promised him that I would make the rest of my life matter. And so I said, if you want to ask me a question, please ask me, tell me about something good in today. It may not be great because of what you're going through, but there's always some good in every single day. And it could be, oh, I heard from a friend that I haven't heard from in 20 years. And it was nice to get reconnected with that person. And those type of reconnections will do so much for your brain and just keep yourself moving forward and not backward.
When we logged on together, we chatted before we started the interview. You know, I was like, okay, I've had a really busy work day and I settled down and I got my notes and I'm turning on the machines and all that stuff. So my mind was kind of in that mode. And the first thing you said was, what's the best thing that happened to you this week? And it just completely shifted my mindset. I just felt so good. And I talked a little bit about my grandson being born, and I can see how that is a really great question. You know, ask somebody, tell me something good that happened to you today.
Yes, because see, I believe life is about establishing and maintaining relationships with people in your life. And as a compassionate person, I want to know what my family and friends value on a much deeper level. And so that's why I would ask even I ask my patients of this, but I ask my family and friends, you know, to tell me about something great in your life. And do you know what is, and I asked this question to patients, and you know what one of the predominant answers I heard was, I just had my first grandchild born.
Yeah.
I want to be around to watch him grow up.
That's a good point.
So that's what life is about. And that's what kind of my mission and purpose in life is, to connect people with their values and their risks. I'm a risk management warrior, and that extends not only to my family and friends, but it extended into my hygiene patients. But I would, and I still do to this day with family and friends, I overlay what people value on top of their risk factors. So when I have a family member that's undergoing cancer, I'm figuring out what he can do on a level that maybe some people aren't thinking about or don't know about yet, as far as what can help somebody emotionally and mentally make it through that kind of a situation. I'm a risk management warrior and a values hunter, because that's what I use in my relationships with people.
Well, I think with this embracing life's hardest moments and your focus on finding a way to have a positive outlook and develop resilience, honestly, I think that's really a key, if not the key, to so much of things related to wellness. So I really thank you for joining us. And as you know from the last time, at the end of an interview, we ask every guest the same question. So I'm going to ask you again today to see how you're doing today, Cris.
Okay.
And it's in the context where we have these 8 areas of wellness I mentioned, and it's very hard to keep them all going at any given time. So we do a mini wellness check-in. Are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, can you think of even one activity you could do to foster wellness in that area?
I would say it's my spiritual life. And I would say the one activity that I could do is to take more problems I have or concerns I have into my war room. And that is where I take things that are bothering me, I pray about them, and then I turn it over to God and let him fight the battle. So that's my war room.
So your war room is one that happens in your mind as you go through this exercise.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But there's a great movie out. If anybody's interested in this type of thing, there's a great movie out called War Room. And it tells a story about this couple that are going through some hard times, and this woman that they met, and she talked to them and taught them about her war room, which was her closet of all places. So.
Okay. Well, I'm sure people will be intrigued and some will even check it out. So Cris, thanks a lot. You gave up your time and for 2 interviews. Both were really interesting and I appreciate them. And thanks very much.
Absolutely. I'm happy to have been here.
We hope you're enjoying the show and we hope you're finding ways to foster wellness in the categories that are important to you. If you like what you're hearing, head to our website, letsbewelltogether.com, and then to the archives page. It includes a quick summary of the different segments of all of our shows back to the start. Have a look and see if there's something interesting you want to listen to, and listen to one of our past episodes. There's a thought. Popped up while running. You know what feels really great? What feels really great is having a running pop-up about a better understanding of an approach to well-being that was caused by having a podcast discussion. It's amazing. Nice combination of running, talking to people who are interested in the topic, learning, and all that. So here it goes. We were recently talking with Dr. Tracy McCarthy, and she talked about functional medicine. And high level, she said that when she was first trained at medical school, she learned how to diagnose and treat. So basically, it was a symptom-based approach. Somebody would come in with an issue, you'd figure out what it was, and you treat. A lot of times that meant medication, and that has its place for sure. But she started feeling more and more that she wanted to find out what was causing the underlying problem. And that leads to this approach to functional medicine, where you're trying to look at the big picture, you're trying to look at systems, and you're trying to figure out what's causing the issue to repeat itself. Well, that connects directly to the approach to wellness that I'm working on, where I'm trying to figure out what the categories are and the activities that foster wellness. It's not unusual to be talking to somebody and they're focused on one area. And a lot of times when it comes to wellness, people are focused on mental health. And so there's people talking about how to treat anxiety and how to treat depression and how to, bring yourself back to the present moment. There's a lot of things about mindfulness exercises, that kind of stuff. And all that is amazing and it's great. And it has its place. However, it does seem to be treating symptoms, right? So people say, how do I stop my anxiety? How do I stop this other feeling? Those are tools you want to have in your toolbox. But what about understanding the big picture? What is it that's causing the anxiety to return over and over that requires me to use my mindfulness techniques? What if, by analogy, we think about functional wellness and balance, kind of like functional medicine? And so let's start looking at the big picture. What are the categories of wellness that are important to us? What are the activities that foster wellness in each category? If I'm missing some of them, is that what's causing these symptoms to repeat and repeat? Maybe I can treat the underlying problem and not just the symptoms when they pop up.
I'm Cameron, and welcome to another installment of the Adventures of the Starving Artist. 2025 is now well and truly underway. We're full steam ahead into the new year, and so far, so good. It's been pretty fun getting back into the swing of things in terms of teaching, now that everyone's through the holiday season and settled back into their new or previous routines. You know, there's always the New Year's resolutions and stuff, so some new students coming in, trying out music for the first time, or revisiting it for the first time in a while. It's a cool time of year to be a music teacher. And one of the things I want to tell you about is from this past week of teaching, actually. It was the first of a series of group classes that I'll be teaching in a school. It's a right after school extracurricular activity. And we've done several of these before. I've done a bunch, different age groups and different instruments. We've done a drum circle sort of deal. We've done a ukulele course. We offer guitar courses, all kinds of stuff. But the one I'm doing right now is called the Junior Jam. And it's working with the little guys. So age 3, I think, is the youngest in the room, or just about 3. Up to 6 is the oldest. He's almost 6. So I've got a group of 9 little ones. And we're just exploring music together in a jam sort of way. It's really, really fun. And seeing at that age, like this is an age group I don't often work with, right? And so that age is hilarious. Some of the stuff they say is just like, it's either oddly poignant and deep, or just completely unhinged dark humor, but they don't intend for it to be sometimes. You know, they just say stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just came out of your mouth. But that's not what I want to tell you about. I want to tell you about a really fun experience we had in our first little session. So there's this instrument. It's kind of a strong word, I guess. It's called a boom whacker. Some of you may be familiar. They come in all sorts of sizes and colors, but essentially it's just a hollow plastic cylinder that's been engineered and designed so that the specific length gives a specific note. And so what you can do is you can get these things in sets to make a scale. And of course, from there, it's just like any other instrument that can make notes. You can make chords and melodies and harmony and all that stuff. Now, keeping in mind, these are just the little tykes. I'm not at all expecting them to understand the fundamentals of 251 or jazz theory. We're not worried about that. We're just worried about smacking the boom whackers around and making sound, right? So I got a set of them that work all through a scale. You know, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but with little boom whackers. And I gave one to each of the kids and basically said, okay, when I point at you, I need you to hit your boom whacker on your hand. And remember, don't hit your neighbor, right? You got to set the rules, of course. You're essentially handing them a small plastic weapon. Anyhow, they were really well behaved, and we had a great time. We started to plunk through a couple of melodies, like Mary Had a Little Lamb. We tried playing in 2 different teams to make chords happen. It was just a riot, and seeing the little kids light up and giggle when they get to be physical and engage with music, pretty cool stuff. Anyway, it put a little smile on my face and brightened my Tuesday. Hopefully, it brings a little sunshine to your week as well. Have a fantastic week. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Cameron. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way. It is sign-off time, and it's John here with Sheila. Hi, Sheila.
Hey.
So my week, I would say it's kind of low on excitement because I didn't really do a lot of activities outside the house. However, sometimes like the not exciting things set you up for success in a bunch of areas.
Oh, yes.
And I got a lot done. So I got ahead on some podcast stuff that I've been behind on. That made me feel good. And I kind of fell out of the habit of making my own protein rolls. It's kind of similar to a granola bar, but it's stuff that I put in it myself. And I used to do something that I had to bake it, but that would take time. And so now I decided to try and find one where I can make them and you don't have to bake it. So I made a bunch of those and I was having that as my snack in the afternoon. So that was good last week. I'm finally getting back to more regular weights and core. Interestingly, though, I was doing that and I went from doing very little weights and core to doing my running and my weights and my core.
Yep.
And I realized halfway through the week that I was just worn out. I know I'll get better at it when I have weeks of training, but after certain days of training, I could tell I was just getting worn out. My muscles were sore. So I took a couple days off and now I'm feeling stronger again. And I'm also trying a different kind of run. I'm going back to being a little more careful watching my heart rate. I'm going to say a little bit about this on a pop-up at one point, but is it ever hard to force yourself to slow down?
Yeah.
Really, it takes a lot of discipline to slow down to keep a certain low heart rate because you're just like, this is too slow and I'm terrible and I got to run faster.
It's not productive. It doesn't make sense.
So a non-exciting but productive week. How about you?
Yeah. You know what? The week just flew by for me.
True.
Flew by. It seemed to just be Friday going next Friday. It's like just go, go, go. So no, my week was very good. I feel like I'm falling into my routine now. I'm working out. I'm eating better. I'm doing my meal preps, which is really great. I'm trying to fit a few things in my week every week. I'm trying to work out and I'm trying to do some meditation, but I'm also trying to do some social events and then going up and seeing Elise and the baby. So everything seems to be falling into place, but trying to get everything in a day is tough.
It is tough.
You know, and you, like you said, sometimes you just get tired and you can't do it. And that's what I'm finding right now.
Yeah, but definitely you gotta do stuff to keep things on track.
Definitely. And this week, my social was going to see Wicked. So a friend of mine, we decided that we were going to go see Wicked and we were the only ones in the movie theater.
Whoa. I know you told me and I'm just like, it's just so hard to imagine. You go to a movie and you and your friend are the only people there.
I couldn't believe it. Like the previews were going on and no one was coming in. I thought, okay, you know, people are coming late. The movie started and no one was there. Like I could have got up and started dancing with everyone, right? Because it's a musical. It was fabulous. I really enjoyed it. Glad to see it in the big theater. And that was a nice social event for me.
All right. Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
We hope everyone enjoyed this week's show and we hope to see you again soon. Thanks for joining us.
That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.